I'm reminded again of Jacob Riis. When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stone cutter hammering away at his rock perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in two, and I will know it was not that blow that did it, but all that had gone before. I have made the case here, when I have had the honor of sitting in, that the exercise right now, that the political moment is not a momentary one. The exercise right now will require exercise because it will require endurance and stamina, that it is both a sprint and a marathon. Somebody who is working on this, who is hammering away at the rock, who is working both to sprint and a marathon, is going to be our guest in just a moment. I've also made the case, when I have had the honor of sitting in, that victories are more likely to come at the local level. I have felt this way since 2004. Barack Obama surprised me. When I looked at the array of power that had been built up, it seemed to me that we were 20 to 40 years away from having a sufficiently organized and strong progressive movement in this country. Of course, hard to predict with the current rate and rapidity of change in the social media era and with how demography is changing. But nonetheless, it is clear again that local victories are critically important. Women's suffrage didn't happen because Congress said so. It happened because state by state, we bent the arc of the moral universe towards justice. Nick Abraham is joining us. Right now, I'm not going to steal his thunder. They are working on a state/local initiative to do something about one of the biggest challenges facing our world and our country. Nick, thanks for joining us. What are you working on?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Here in Washington, we're working on
Washington State, that is.
Yeah, Washington State. Out here in the Northwest, we were working on something that's prehistoric. It is going to be the first pollution fee in the country to make it to the ballot, and we hope will be the first carbon price in the entire country to pass by a vote of the people.
So explain. You put a price on carbon. And how much is that price? Give us just the quickest details, because most of the listeners aren't in Washington State, but I want to open up the discussion about how people can act, sort of live the bumper sticker of thinking big picture and living locally, thinking globally and acting where they are.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what our mentality is trying to do what we can in Washington to reduce pollution. So, our price starts at $15 a ton. And it's only charged to the largest polluters in Washington State. This is folks like the oil industry, utilities that haven't yet switched over to clean energy, because we really feel that they are the ones who have caused the most harm to people, and we think they should be the ones paying the cost.
So my policy nerd question is, how much? Well, this one isn't that policy nerd question. Is how much will it raise gas and energy prices, and how do you respond to the inevitable critique that your opponents will use, which is, oh yeah, you call yourself progressive, but you're going to raise prices on poor people?
Yeah, no, and I love a good wonky question like that. So we are charging this to the largest polluters. It's not going to be charged to individuals. We felt really strongly we wanted to structure the price that way. We know that the oil industry is going to try and pass these costs down, but they are not going to be able to. They're going to have to take on a lot of this burden, and we know the only way we're going to be able to put those costs on the folks that are causing the most harm is if we build out alternatives to what the oil industry is trying to do. Right now, they have a complete monopoly on where we get our energy. So if we can build out a lot of these alternatives, which is what this initiative does, we're going to be able to put those costs back on the industries that are causing the most harm and build out cleaner energy, cleaner communities for more people.
And how do you do that? So you impose the price, $15 a ton, I think you said, on the largest polluting industries, for instance, major utilities, to encourage them not to use coal and to use more renewables, and on oil and gas to encourage them to internalize their costs so people use other means potentially. What are the and then what do you spend the money on? It goes directly to renewable energy alternative sources. You send it back in little checks like Alaska does. What do you use the money for?
Right. So, that's what's pretty unique about our approach. The price is one part of it, but the really important piece, the one that we're the most excited about, is where these investments are going. 70% of this is going to create about $1 billion a year, and we're going to put that towards transitioning communities to clean energy. So that, yes, it's going to mean putting money into renewable energy, but it's also going to be things like home retrofits for energy efficiency. It's going to be putting money back into our natural resources, which is such a huge part of our state's economy in the Northwest. And that's going to be stuff like healthier forests, because we know that's such a good way to clean the air and reduce pollution, is investing in those natural systems that are doing it on their own. And we can put a lot of money back into our state and be able to invest in the things we know are making us stronger for the long term.
Who's paying for the ballot initiative?
We have the largest coalition in our state's history. We have folks like the largest labor unions in Washington are all behind us. Of course, environmental groups, but then folks like community of color advocates, health professionals. We have the largest faith groups in Washington who are coming on board with our organization. So we have an incredibly diverse array of organizations that are supporting us. And the funding for this is coming from all sorts of different groups amongst those organizations.
What are your chances? So I'm really glad you spent this time and are talking to us about it, because as I introduced the segment, I do think that the most inspiring activities are those that not only are aiming our pea shooters at the largest elephant, but also accomplishing local objectives and modeling good policy. What are your chances of winning? So you don't have to win at Congress. That gives you a better chance. You decided to go to the ballot in Washington State. Washington State is a purple state leaning blue or a blue state leaning purple. What are your chances of winning?
Yeah, I think that's a really good description of our politics out here. We feel really good about this. We've seen that large polls in our state show that people care about pollution. They know it's a problem. It's something that they are going to tackle. We've had some good polling. I can't tell you all the details of it yet, but we are well above water, and we feel really strongly that we have a good shot at this year. Unfortunately, the oil industry, we know, is already gearing up against us. They are, all the largest oil industry folks have already pledged money to battle our initiative. Shell Oil, BP, Exxon, all the famous names there have all lined up together around a single pack to come against us. But, we know we have more people on our side always in these battles. So the fact that we have this diversity of organizations that are supporting us, this many organizations that are marching in line, all on the same initiative, all towards the same goal, we know if we all stand together, we can be able to outbeat the
and I'm from Oregon State, just to the south, for people around the country who, have about as much awareness of the Pacific Northwest as you and I might be able to map every state in the Midwest. Although I'm getting better. When you well, in our state, when we try to do a tobacco tax, when we try to do a GMO, not even prohibiting anything, just labeling, the industry forces came in and made those at their time. I know the tobacco was, I think also the GMO was the most expensive ballot initiatives on one side ever, and ended them. What kind of money you think you're up against? What's the most expensive ballot initiative that has happened in Washington? What kind of money you think you can raise? I heard you make the point, well, we might not win in money, but win in people. But talk a little bit about the money before we break. Yeah,
absolutely. So, we are getting funding from a lot of the organizations that have been supporting this that I mentioned before, labor unions, the environmental folks, a lot of community color organizations that are raising in-kind donations, from going out and knocking on doors, supporting us. So, a lot of it is not going to come in dollars and cents. It's going to come in boots on the ground. And that's, that is a value that they just can't quantify. That they will always be able to outraise us, but we really feel strongly that we have, like we said,
oil company executives aren't going to be spending their, Saturday afternoons knocking on doors in King County. Yeah, I hear you.
They don't have a ground game, and we know we can always outmaneuver them in that sense. They're going to be flooding the airwaves, but we feel pretty strong, and we know their game plan. We've seen what they've done in California before. We've seen what they've tried to do in states like Oregon, battling against the great initiative they've passed there. So we feel pretty strong, and we know what they're going to try and do.
Nick, where can people find out more?
Yeah, if you go to yes, YES on 1631.org, you can find out more about what we're trying to do. And if you're in Washington, be able to get involved. And for folks around the country that want to support something like this, that's the best place to go.
Nick, thanks a lot for what you're doing. It gives a little bit of hope for people who are looking at not only Supreme Court justice they're not rooting for, but things they might want to watch in a good way.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, we appreciate it.